Alien Ed here, trying to go live, trying to put out some information about what's happening in the world and the world of Tridactyls. So, a little bit about myself. Those of you that don't know, I do possess a BA in anthropology, which I'm super happy to have right now. When I went to get that, my parents asked me, "What are you going to do with a BA degree in anthropology?" I said, "I don't know, work at a museum." And I ended up working at a museum. So that's good. It's a dual degree, so it's in social sciences with a certificate in ethnic studies at the Graves Museum of Archaeology and Natural History in Dania Beach, Florida. I did run the education department. I was in charge of the tours, the volunteers, and the classroom workshops. I also did the little adventures we had, the little expeditions to Peace River, Arcadia, Florida, where we would go looking for duodong fossils, ancient manatee bones. Every once in a while, someone would pull out a mastodon or a mammoth tooth. So that was cool. And it was either or. You could get both out of that location. I always wanted a megatherium claw. That would have been cool. So that's me. I've also taught history at the private school level. And those of you that know me also know I'm a local South Florida actor, and I do local commercials, usually little medical things and stuff. Although I am looking forward to see if I am in the new movie, the new Harmony Korine movie, or if my scene is disgracefully left on the cutting room floor. So I did say I wanted to talk about motifs and whatnot. And I have someone contacting me. I should just maybe just invite him to the stream. Wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't it? Let's see here. So I did want to talk about motifs and talk about the Tridactyls. When the Tridactyls first appeared in my Google feed, I dismissed them. I ignored them. Yeah. I thought it was fake. And then my girlfriend, my lovely girlfriend Christy, who does a lot of the graphics and stuff for me, she's the one that created Inti and the Trid animation. She said, "Have you seen these aliens?" And I said, "Yeah," I kind of blew them off. I thought they were, cake like everybody else did, right? And then when I saw them and I saw they were taking them seriously, and I noticed their cordiform shaped faces, their heart shaped faces. And something in my head went ding, and I remembered them. I remembered them from my Mesoamerican class taught by Dr. Kennedy at FAU in Boca Raton. At FAU, I was the president of the Lambda Alpha Anthropology Club, so that was a fun time there. I remember pointing those exact faces out. And because I think we were looking at the ones in Bella Coola compared to probably the Caribbean ones. And I think that was one of the first times I heard someone dismiss this because I thought it was some example of cultural diffusion. And they said, temporally and distance, there wasn't the case. And so it was just coincidence, or as they say, what do they call it? Independent innovation. Yes. Which I'm still kind of on the fence. Independent innovation means that it didn't take like one person to invent the bow and arrow. In theory, the bow and arrow was invented in various places around the world. Looking now and understanding that these beings, well, let me, before I jump ahead here, the heart-shaped faces, the cordiform shaped faces. So I started to research them immediately during this immediate time period here. And what I found was that the cordiform faces were found in conjunction with mother goddess motifs. And we're here to talk about motifs. So a mother goddess motif specifically is a matriarchal figure, a female form, usually in the action of giving birth, partum. Is that what it's called? Partum. And many times there is another being emerging from her, as we all know, the birds and the bees and the stork and all that. That's how it does happen. So we have the cordiform faces. We have the mother goddess. Also, What do you see? What is the biggest motif with the cordiform faces? I wish there was somebody here that could join me. And so I am live. That doesn't mean I can't accept people. So if you are watching this right now, I can send you a studio restream. Hopefully, it's not that schmuck from Reddit who's going around saying that the Dr. McDowell didn't say what he said, what he did say. Anyway, so we're going on about motifs. What is the number one motif? And if you were here, or if you're in the chat somewhere, maybe I should check my chats. Let's see if anyone has an answer for me. Looking for, I'm having trouble finding the chat. Let's see. There it is. Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody has contacted me. That's fine and all. So the number one motif, I will cut to the chase, found with the cordiform faces is the spiral. It's a portal, dude. It could be, in a way. So the spiral seems to be like a lot of symbols. Has multivariate meanings. It means many different things. Much like my where is it? It's over there. No, there it is. My size symbol. It's on that side of the screen. Okay. Multivariate meanings, right? So the spiral seems to be associated with water and serpents or snakes, although there is a difference. Let's say snakes for now. Water and snakes. So for me, with this dual meaning, I've sort of put it together, really. And the easiest way is it's a water serpent motif. It is both. Now, I'm not a big fan of stargates and that sort of talk. I'm not a big fan of interdimensional talks. Hell, I don't even like ghosts. Okay, maybe with all this spiritual woo that goes around with the Tridactyls, I'll change my mind about the ghosts. Yeah. So portals. So it could, in a way, be a portal because it could be the portal to the underworld. And I think the majority of the underworld, sure, it's underground and hell and Hades and all that. But I think the real subterranean area is just underwater, right? These guys are seem to be marine amphibians. To me, they seem to go through some sort of a phase, a metamorphosis phase. There's not a lot of evidence for that. It's a bit speculative right now and mostly based on art and the ancestral narrative, the myths, the oral traditions of the world. Spiral is the serpent mother goddess. Okay. So you'll find those spirals on a lot of the associated petroglyphs with the cordiform shaped faces of the Tridactyls. So that is a very important motif, those things. Other real important motifs you've heard me talk about is what's called the Master of Beasts or the Master of Animals. It is a character that I call the child, like Horus the child. Horus is a good example of this. Horus is many times depicted holding two serpents. And what could this meaning mean? I believe the two serpents represent the alpha and beta early beings, the sort of your Adam and Eve, if you will, your Adam and Eve in serpentine form. Whew. So we're on about the child and the master of animals. It's a lot. It's a lot for me too, because my mind is whirling. You know, after whatever 6 months of reading all these myths, it's good for me to talk about it. It helps me organize it. I talked to someone last night, Scott. Was his last name, I believe, right? Yeah, Matt Scott. And we were just going on about all sorts of stuff. And it really kept me going. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm just kind of like a photo dump. I'm just kind of verbally dumping some of my theories right now. So where were we at? We were about the child and Horus. So I've actually drawn this motif in stick figure on one of my many websites, social media sites, Facebook, Twitter. And in addition to Horus the child, in between holding the two beasts, there is many times a sky god or a bird being depicted above him. That could be your Zeus. That could be your, I don't know, your spacecraft or something. Who knows? And then below him is usually another beast. I call it a supporting being. Sometimes it's little dwarfs, sometimes it's lizards, and his feet is resting on those. I think that's what happened with the Mary on the snake head. I think that was a misinterpretation of time. It's not that Mary's stepping on the snake and crushing it. It's Mary is just another example of this serpentine mother goddess, and so she's not stepping on it. It's supporting her, and that support may just be a bunch of Tridactyls. Who knows? All over the place, still alive today. Wouldn't that be fun? I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe it would be a horror show. So we're talking motifs. That's another good one. And let's just repeat that as the Master of Beasts or the Master of Animals, with a sort of a new motif as I narrow it down in the center there to the child. So I wanted to talk about what I think are other maybe newer motifs that I'm starting to see out there, which is newer. What am I saying? They're thousands of years old, ancient. They're new to me, and they're new to you guys if you haven't heard about them, and I'm putting them out there. So one of the ones I have is the hold your head up motif. Now, it is of course, it's a common thing to do for man. But we find this associated with also the Horus character, known as Harpocrates, I believe is his name. Him, maybe some Taino pieces as well. They're holding their heads. Oh, I think a Nomo piece from Africa shows them holding their head. And so I couldn't help but think that, well, these are marine creatures with pneumatic skulls, light for the ocean, okay? And thin necks, I'm assuming for looking out above the water. Part of that original serpentine structure is that neck is probably part of the uniqueness of it, I would guess. So what happens on land? People are postulating, well, they're used to low gravity. Well, in the ocean, it'd be low gravity too, wouldn't it not? I would think so. So maybe either while being on land or because of hybridization, maybe the human skull is too heavy for their little necks. And so they are always holding them. Maybe some of these neck plate things, I don't know. We've got some weird metal structures, those osmium implants. Maybe that has something to do with reinforcing their neck. I don't know. I'm speculating here and trying to guess. I look forward to the future when we really start to learn some more. A little bit of a, oh, I see. Is that the pole coming out? I see a little bit of a non-green on the green screen. So what is that about, huh? All right, so I don't want to bore you with that. So we're talking motifs. So look for the hold your head up motif. And again, you could always dismiss all of these things as coincidence or that's just a common pose. Yeah, sure, that could be it. But that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to look for common poses. I am trying to look for connections and infer connections. If there is one, we'll find out later for a lot of these things. But on a hunch, many times on a hunch, or with the help of pareidolia, right? It looked like something. It sent me down a research path where I found the answers. Let's talk about a brand new one. So today I have a brand new motif for you. I'm calling it, and I don't even know, is this one good enough for this? Maybe we'll see. There's a couple of really strange, like bent characters. They're like in these weird positions. There's this thing called the Garuda pillar. So the Garuda is supposed to be the enemy of the Naga. The Garuda is the flying beast. And of course, we have this weird dichotomy between the beings and flying beings. Dionysus was eaten by the vultures, and is one of these Tridactyls. Is Artemis really Dionysus? Ooh, plot twist. Wouldn't that be interesting? So Dionysus was eaten by vultures, which is funny too, because isn't that a religious rite in some cultures, right? In the old days, they would put your body on the roof and let the vultures do its thing. For the record, that's how I want to be taken care of. So there's this weird dichotomy. The birds are fighting the dwarves. And so the Garuda is supposed to be an enemy. But I can't help but seeing the myths where I want to say it's a Shiva. And Shiva's working with both Garuda and the Naga. So I don't know. Maybe there was some falling outs. It's hard to tell how much enemies they really are. But I thought the Garuda pillar character looked like some of these other guys, like this here. So look at this dude. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let's there we go. All right, he's got an interesting little face. He's got a little divot in his head, which is interesting. If you saw the other day when I had the skull, the 3D printed skull, there is a little divot there that corresponds with the Japanese myth, the kappa, which has this divot in its head that's able to retain water. So he has that. But really, I wanted you to look at this weird bent position and maybe take a look at the bottom of the legs. Let's focus in on that back part too. You never know what you might discover. Oh, look at that. Is that a face? Doo 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 doo. Is that a fish face? This is fun. I don't care. Yeah, I'm speculating sometimes. So what? It's fun. Enjoy it. Right? This is never going to happen again, this story. Yeah, is this simultaneously a skull or something? I don't know. Very cool though. So why do I bring up the Garuda pillar? I'm wondering if the Garuda pillar is not too far off from other artifacts we have, such as well, I don't know if we have them actually that we know of, is something like the Asherah pole. So Asherah pole has the symbol of the goddess on it. So anyway, that was my new one. It's not that big of a deal. It's what am I going to call it? So I don't know, pillar position. I'm looking for. Oh, I know what I was getting to. So, is this all the bronze serpent? Is Asherah and the bronze serpent the same concept? You know, we did the etymological research on seraphim, the angels, and it turns out seraph is a name for snake. So it's really snake people. Which made me wonder if the Latin translation wasn't off too. Is it really angels or is it anguillas, eels? A lot of snakes, a lot of serpents in the Hebrew Bible. Nahash is another term, which is not too far off from Naga. What else is happening? What else can we talk about? So, yeah, that Dr. McDowell, what a hero, right? Everyone's waiting for the white Anglo boomer to come forth and save us. Oh, save us, Senor White Man, right? And people said that they weren't listening. They said there was some sort of prejudice against Latin America and the science. And you know what? They bring this guy in, and I feel like it kind of proves it. Because now some people are like, oh, so they're real, are they? Well, yeah, we've been saying that. So he's great. He has got quite the background. You know, it's an equally interesting background like the doctors Alcé Benitez. Guy was in the military, a forensic doctor. He's also a dentist. So, but that's good though. I mean, these beings we've had dentists look at the beings before, right? Was it Maria that had the implant? What else did we discover this week? Recently, we discovered that looking at Ku, the Hawaiian god Ku, I noticed there was some steganography going there. Now, Ku is found in like tiki bars all over the place. I mean, you might have one in your bar right now. He is the classic kind of short, stocky tiki god. He's got the headdress, the big eyes, and what appears to be a large mouth. Why don't I just see if I can pull him up for you? And we did a little Photoshop, I have to admit. And let's see here. I'm hearing myself in my head, so it's making me stop talk. Oh, I hate when that happens. I'm just going to take my headphones off. Okay, I don't need to hear myself. I don't know where that's coming from. So, Ku, you know what? If you're listening at home, you can look it up yourself. But I'd like to pull up the picture that we photoshopped earlier. I'm just going to do a screen share on my X. That'll be fun. As long as I don't pull up myself talking. Okay, so just the other day, I did this groovy little Photoshop here. Let's take a look at it. People hate my Photoshop. My God, they're like, that's fake. You Photoshopped it. Like, yeah, I Photoshopped it. I wanted to help you see it is all. Okay, so I have a button down here called share screen, and I'm going to share the one right here. Boom shakalaka. Okay. There it is. Okay, no big deal. That is just Mr. Koo. But if you've been watching the Tridactyls already, you might be already be able to see something there. So let's just move on to the next picture. A little bit of Photoshop, and boom. This should help bring it in. So that's, in my opinion, that's steganography. That's hidden information. So what we think is the mouth is actually the cordiform large eyes and large head of a tridactyl being with even some skull appendages on there. Let's go back to the original. This guy is in every bar in the world. His eyes are usually considered to be up there in the middle there, right? But in actuality, those are the eyes. And you're welcome to, I don't mind debating on some of this stuff, but a lot of it's, it's my opinion, but it's what I'm seeing, and it's thematic. I'm seeing it everywhere. Let's see here. Okay. Now I'm wondering if I can still be heard. I hope so. If anyone's out there, they can send me a message. Let me know if you can still hear me. I'm about to wrap this up anyway. I think we've talked about a lot of cool things. We talked about the motif of the mother goddess, the importance of the spiral in conjunction with the cordiform heads. We talked about other possible new motifs. Well, again, not new. The Master of Animals and Master of Beasts is one of the oldest motifs. And again, I would say the best example of that is Horus. Why don't I go up and pull up my stick figure drawing of that for you guys real quick, if I can. I'm sure if you're listening to me right now, you probably know it, and you've probably already heard me say it, and you've seen the pictures yourself. So not a big deal. But let's see if I can find it. I've been posting so many things, and I wanted to take a shot and see how I could balance talking to everybody while finding stuff. And it's not that good. It's not that fun. Okay, so I've got my own little stick figure interpretation of the famous Master of Animals, Master of Beasts motif. Here we go. We have a Sky Father above. We have an Earth Mother and an Earth Father. I drew the Earth Father with horns, the horned serpent. We do have a skull with cranial ridges. I've called the center figure the child, Prince of the Earth, and the child's on a supporting being. That child, as I mentioned in other podcasts, might be, maybe that represents the final defeat of the tridactyl DNA in our first full human. Or maybe that is just an intermediary being between the serpentine naga-like figures and the domesticated primate of Earth. Who knows? And maybe it is some sort of a savior figure also. And maybe these motifs repeat for a reason, because they're not just repeating the same story, is that these actual actions might be repeating over time. Why would a being have to reincarnate and do it all over again? I don't know. That's maybe something someone in India could answer as far as that sort of thing goes. Okay. All right. So, and then we showed a possibility that there might be another motif out there. I don't know, calling it the pillar percher, a pillar percher motif. Because the early religious iconography was put on the tops of these poles, these Asherah poles, similar to the Greek Zoannon statues, maybe even similar to the Hathor pillars, which could bring me into a whole new topic, which is the Ionic columns. And you know what? We've got time. Why don't we talk about the Ionic columns? So yes, the Ionic columns. The Ionic column seems to be a convergence of several different cultural traditions. Again, Asherah poles with a goddess on the top, Zoannan figures, which are anthropomorphic figures made of wood or stone representing goddesses like Hera. Um, Also, the Hathor pillar, again from Egypt, which clearly shows a goddess's face at the top of the pillar. Right? When I first mentioned that the Ionic columns were related to tridactyl phenomenon, people thought it was crazy. Like, what are you talking about? They thought it was just pareidolia, and that I was just saying, look, the spirals, they look like their eyes. It's way more than that. It's way, way more than that. Another key to this is, we speak of Ionic columns as it's in Greece. Well, technically it's in Turkey. Technically it's northwest of Çatalhöyük. It's northwest of Syria. And from Syria is where they say actually the Ionic columns come from, which possibly this is where the gods of Abraham's people come from also. This is where the belief in Shaddai could come from. More importantly, it's also where you can find the Syrian eye idols of El Brak, I believe it is. Those are the little ones. They look like little E.T. gingerbread cookies. Okay. And they were so popular. There were so many of them that, it forced anthropologists to say, hey, these are like, there may be fertility deities, but these are home deities too. And if you've ever heard of home spirits or home goblins or what's a hobgoblin? A hobgoblin is technically a home spirit. So people believed in this sort of thing, that they lived there with you. Interesting stuff. So Ionic columns. So the little El Brak Syrian eye idols, which look like little E.T. gingerbreads, those, like a lot of art, became more stylized and became the what you'd see in the I want to say the Anu columns. Oh God, Anu. I'm sorry, I get my Anus and my Ans and my Enkis and my Enlikis and all the Sumerian. I should probably just look them up. Yeah, it's Anu. So the Sumerian Anu. Maybe that's it. I'm just saying it so weirdly that it's making my own ears question the word. Anu gets stylized and becomes this little figurine of a volute-eyed or volute-horned being with a squared spiral on his chest. I couldn't help but think of the Sumerian myth of them building waterways. So if the original spiral is a waterway in a natural area, maybe they were depicting a square aquifer or a basin. Anyway, the very detailed and realistic El Brak idols become this stylized being. And those volute eyes clearly evolved into the Ionic column eyes that we have today. The Ionic columns are described as having a woman-shapely figure. I don't know, unless the woman looks like olive oil, maybe. So the Ionic column was a hunch of mine. And then I found all of this relation to it being related to Hera, the goddess. And of course, I'm already on to the thing that Tridactyls are related to the mother goddess. So we have it's related to Hera's temple, and it's also related to Asclepius' temple, who was the serpent healer. Asclepius is probably better known as Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus? I always get that name wrong too. I'm not good with pronunciation. Okay, but up in the sky there is this constellation of a guy doing what? He is the master of animals. Yeah, man. So I think they tricked us, though, with the constellation. First of all, it's the only constellation, I've mentioned this before, that is cut in two. So you have Ophiuchus, and then either side you have the serpent's head and the serpent's tail, serpent's caput and serpent's cauda. I think that was one continuous constellation. And not only that, but I think what they're calling the serpent's tail is an edited head. Because in the Master of Animal motif, he's holding two serpents. Asclepius breaks up two serpents from fighting. I think one dies or something, or he kills one, and then the other one brings it back to life, and that's how he learns to bring things back to life. Yeah, the snake people can bring people back to life. I think we've heard this story before. All this stuff because of the Ionic column, man. Wild. So go with your hunches. It's okay to speculate. We have new data, man. No offense to Mr. Flint Dibble. I know he's not really doing the Tridactyls thing, or is Graham Hancock for that matter. but we got new data. So this independent innovation that anthropologists wager because of these things they're seeing as coincidences, guys, it's not a coincidence if cordiform-shaped faces are found in Bella Coola, Canada, in northern Japan, in the Caribbean, in Oceania, in Polynesia, in Syria, in South America, in Europe. That's not a coincidence. So it's either cultural diffusion, okay, which is what anthropologists call it when another society and another civilization picks up another cultural trait. The trait was diffused, but they don't want to admit to that either because we're talking about temporal and geographical distances that wouldn't make sense that a culture was translated. Unless, of course, we're talking about superior post-deluge beings coming down from or up from the waters, right? They came down up from the waters and then down from the sky. These beings, which is a universal myth of beings coming and teaching man everything: language, cultural traits, art, probably named war, even. A lot of stuff. Boom, shakalaka, a lot of stuff. So, it's not a coincidence. We can say it's not a coincidence. We have evidence of the beings. We have the once living beings that are depicted all over the world, man. But I noticed there is this, would you call it cognitive dissonance? You know, if let's imagine it was this. Let's imagine that we lived in a world where imagine a world where no dinosaurs existed. No dinosaurs. Imagine that for a second. There's no dinosaurs. It never happened. There was no Jurassic Park. There was no plastic dinosaurs to play with. Nothing. And then someone came off today and said, I just found the skeleton of a 50-foot long reptile. What would that society say? What would that culture say? They would say what I'm hearing now. They were saying, bullshit, I don't believe it. And that's it. They would stop right there. That's unfortunate. Well. I have been on a little rant. I think I have one more artifact to show you. I think it'll be a great way to end off this little thing here. I know I'm not always the most intelligible. I don't know if I always make sense. I have got some great theories. You know, the Tridactyl beings are merely the evolutionary descendants of the Naga serpentine people, aka the dragons of Asia. The dragons. Dragons aren't these big monsters that that fight armies. No, they're probably the size of a Tridactyl. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Power. It's a lot of power. So, gosh darn it, I forgot what I was even going to say again. I go off on these tangents. What about this? Let's just switch. Hey, look at this. Okay, we got ourselves a pig dragon here. So, I believe that possibly this might be what a sort of maybe an embryo state, a fetus state of the Tridactyls. Yeah. These are a common Hongshang artifact. Hongshang is a early culture. I want to say Bronze Age culture. They've got great letters that seem to depict tridactyl beings and serpentine beings. But let's keep it up. If you guys have any myths, if you have any artifacts, please send them to me. Let me see them. Definitely check out our store at tridactyls.com. I'm not trying to make money off of t-shirts. I'm not. I just want, if people want the products, we do have a really groovy Inti t-shirt. Inti is our little our mascot. I wonder if I have him anywhere today. All right. Well, he got his head's cut off like the little I don't know what you call them, the little cranial skull. Anyway, I've had too much fun It was great. I'm probably going to rant like this again. I really much like it better when people are on. So if you're ever listening, come on to the show. Say hello. All right. Live long and prosper. Alien Ed out. Trying to find the camera here. Keep up the research. We got this.